Okay, I'm just going to go into a short breakdown of a race I did at the weekend, and just go over the way the race was set up, and what is going on with my hair today. What is that? Go over how the race was set up, how the race went for me personally, and what I learned from it, I suppose. I have no footage from the actual race because I did not take the GoPro with me. It was a shorter race, so I didn't have like anything to store the camera in while I was running, and I really didn't want to hold on to it for the whole thing, so I just didn't film anything in the race itself. And particularly when you're putting in like a hard effort, which I was, my brain isn't going to be thinking like, oh, better film. It's going to be thinking, oh my god, I'm dying. So yeah, no footage of the actual race, but there'll be maps and little notations and stuff, so you kind of get an idea of what was going on. This is literally just a spoken race report on the race itself and how I felt during the race. That's it. And that's probably how a lot of the race reports are going to be going forward, because I'm just not going to want to carry the camera with me for a lot of them, and I think it will detract from my overall race experience if I'm trying to film it at the same time, which is therefore pointless. So I took part in the Thurlstone Chase, which is organised by Penistone Footpath Runners and Athletics Club, I think. It wasn't a race that was set up through SI entries or anything like that. It was one of those where you just email the race director and are like, hey, can I have an entry form? And then they send you it and you fill it out and then they enter you into the race. So like a bit more old school, I suppose. It was fairly casual. There were supposed to be wave starts. That was the idea originally, so we were all given a wave and we were going to set off at 1 minute intervals. As it turned out, we didn't do wave starts. We did do a mass start because it seemed fine. I mean, it was obviously outdoors and there was enough space across the start line area for people to kind of space out safely, I feel. And the kind of starting area as well, that we were in like a football field, so there was still plenty of space there for people to stay 2 meters apart while they were waiting for the race to start, and at the end when they were getting their bits and pieces after the race. So that's the COVID safety stuff out the way, I think. It's not a particularly big race. There were about 83 competitors, so a fair number for a place like Thurlstone, which is not huge. There's no dedicated parking areas necessarily. There's just sort of some side roads and stuff nearby people can park in, which seemed fine. There seemed to be enough space for everybody. And then it's just a little bit of a walk up from the main road area, up past kind of a church, and then up into the football field where the race was starting. I'll put maps and names and stuff on the screen as I'm talking. Race entry was £5, so definitely on the cheaper end of the scale for stuff like this, and yeah, definitely worth the money. The course itself was 6.7 kilometres. The original Thurlstone Chase course they've been using for a few years is 6.3, but the race director recce'd it the morning before and found a field with a bunch of cows in who had really young calves, and the cows were quite aggressive, so he basically just redirected the entire route a little bit. There was just a section that was different to previous years to make sure we didn't go through that field and didn't put any runners in danger or any cows in danger, essentially. So the new route is 6.7, which obviously isn't a huge difference from the original route. It felt like a huge difference when I reached the 6.3 kilometre mark, because I was kippered by that point. The route itself was pretty nice. It was mostly footpaths around Thurlstone, with a few like short bits of road section which were quiet roads, so it wasn't a closed road event or anything, and it didn't really need to be because we only encountered one car down one of the lanes that I came across, and that was fine. It was like a tiny country lane, so the car couldn't really go very fast anyway. Yeah, nice route, lots of nice views over towards the Peak District. You can see Stoodley Pike from Thurlstone, which is pretty cool, and yeah, nice route. Because there was no hanging around at the end for like any kind of awards ceremony or anything, they did spot prizes, and they had enough spot prizes for everybody. So it was just stuff like t-shirts, bottles of beer, socks, cereal bars, those kind of things, just bits and pieces that people could pick up at the end of the race for competing. yeah, just a prize for taking part, essentially. And then they were going to send out actual prizes to category winners once the results had been processed. So yeah, that's how they were handling the awards stuff in light of COVID and everything. I got a free pair of socks. My race went about as well as I had expected it to. I have no speed work in my training right now. I'm literally just doing some base building stuff, so wasn't expecting to bash out anything incredible, but I figured I could, you know, put in maybe a sort of around 35-minute kind of time for that sort of course once I knew it was going to be a little bit longer. So I did run it in 35 minutes and 56 seconds, so nearly 36 minutes, which was fine. That's roughly what I'd expected to do, and Strava indicated my like average pace across the race was 5:20 a kilometre. Obviously there was quite a bit of variation in there because of elevation and running through fields that had more grass going on and stuff, but yeah, I was pretty happy with that. It wasn't fast particularly compared to what I've been able to do in the past, but because I'm kind of still base building and I'm still being like really overly cautious because of recent injuries, and I'm just not doing any speed work right now. So it was more of, this race was just me just seeing how things went and having a bit of fun, really. It wasn't like a serious thing, just wanted to test the waters and see how it went. I also don't have shorter distance races as like a competitive goal of mine, so they are always going to be a bit more of a thing that I just do because I feel like, oh, that might be fun. They're never going to be me competing particularly seriously for those types of distances. In terms of how I felt during the race, there's an uphill section at the start, and that's kind of the only uphill really, and that I felt fine on the uphill. Arguably I went out too fast, but I felt fine on the uphill. It was the downhill after that where it kind of went from track to road, so it was a downhill road section which I have not a lot of experience with, and I did try and pick up the speed on that. So it's obviously, running downhill on road is a completely different running technique to running downhill on trail. And it took a lot out of me, a lot more than I was expecting. So I felt good going up the hill, and I felt good on my way down the hill. But once I got to the bottom of the hill, I don't know, it was just like I got slammed with a sudden wave of just energy draining feeling. It was horrible. So I kind of dragged myself through the next couple of fields, and it wasn't pleasant. I felt nauseous and really lightheaded, and it was starting to warm up a bit because it had been raining that morning. The race was in the afternoon. I completely forgot to say it started at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. It had been raining all morning, and as the sun was starting to come out, I think it started to get really humid. As I mentioned in the video for the Dark Peak Trail run, I do really struggle with heat. I think I just need to do some specific heat training of some kind to try and get over that a bit, because it does seem it's a legitimate hindrance to me in even short distance races. I did get over that initial period of nausea and lightheadedness. I just sort of had to slow down a bit and plod a bit more for a section until I felt a bit better and could pick the speed up a little bit more. I did get hit by another wave of nausea and lightheadedness a bit later in the race, and so I did have to kind of slow down a little bit there as well, which was not ideal. So I thought it was going to be, while I was running the race, I thought it was going to go worse than it did when I looked at the time and the data and stuff afterwards. I felt like I was slowing down a lot more than I wanted to, and I felt quite sluggish and heavy, which is probably the weather, because it was humid and the air felt really dense, and my training in the week leading up to it hadn't been mega ideal. There's a couple of things that hadn't gone quite according to plan. I hadn't been training for the race specifically, but just my general training hadn't quite gone according to plan. And then there's hay fever to take into account as well. I do have hay fever, and it does like to just sort of slam me really hard when I'm least expecting it to. During the last section of the race, my heart rate did start to skyrocket, and breathing started to get a little bit difficult. Like I could feel my chest starting to rattle a bit, which is a hay fevery thing that happens to me sometimes when I'm running, especially if I'm putting in a hard effort. Yeah, the like chest rattle starts to occur, which is always a little bit disconcerting. So lots of takeaways from it. Essentially, I've discovered that I'm terrible at downhill road running, but it's not really something I want to put into my training because I don't road run and I don't really intend to do that much road running, particularly over the course of my running career. Having said that, the next race I'm doing is mostly road. So that one might not go super well either. But I'm not gonna like do downhill road running in my training. I don't really think there's any point. I need to use that time to do downhill trail training, and yeah, I just don't think there's too much point. But at least it's something I'm aware of, so I know if I find a downhill section in a race, or I know beforehand that there's a downhill road section in a race, then I can kind of adjust my pace to make sure I don't have the same issues as I did perhaps in the Thurlstone chase. I came 50th overall out of 83, so I was in the slower half of the race, which I wasn't expecting to place well. I don't have a lot of real speed right now, so yeah, wasn't expecting to do anything amazing. I'm just trying to get the feel for races again, because I'm just so out of practice with race tactics and how races feel. So it's just nice to take part in these things, I think is the main thing for me at the minute. This year is more about building back up after injury, and just building up towards the ultra and having some fun along the way. It's more of a year about just feeling things out and finding out what works best for me, because last year's attempt at ultra training didn't go very well, so I need to kind of approach it differently to how I did last year, and that's kind of the main goal. So I'm not really bothered that I didn't place well, and I'm not bothered that I didn't get a crazy good time, because I did run as fast as I was expecting to, which I think is the main thing. I think the only way to combat the nausea issue is just to try and do more running in the heat. I think that's the only way to do it. I haven't really or I start using saunas on a regular basis or something. I don't know. It's not like crazy hot in the UK, so heat training isn't that easy to do, so we'll see. I'll figure something out. Yeah, good race, nice route, nice people who organised it. It was really chill and felt really laid back and nice and friendly, and the course was good. Yeah, it was a nice little event. I enjoyed it, and I'm quite happy with my performance. It was what I had hoped I would be able to do, so that's the main thing really. And then I just know that I've got things I can improve on. I know that with some speed work in my training I would be able to go a lot faster, and once my distance has built back up again, yeah, I think there's a lot of improvements that can be made. So I'm excited looking forward, based on the results from this kind of performance over a shorter distance. I'm really interested to see how much I can improve, basically. Thank you for watching. If you're interested in more trail and fell running type content, then that's mostly what goes on this channel at the minute. It is general outdoorsy stuff that we do here. I do wild swimming and wild camping and bouldering and hiking and stuff, but that kind of thing is currently happening as and when I'm able to, just because life is busy at the minute. But we'll hopefully get wild camping soon, maybe. I just don't have any free evenings at the moment that work for wild camping, sadly, but we'll figure it out. Thank you for watching, and I will catch you next time.